Hi.
Hey, I'm back.
I'm thinking I'm back.
Let's get to it. Today, I'm going to be exploring ideas on how we place value on our TV shows, movies, and overall entertainment, trying to address questions like, have movie budgets gotten out of control, and how much waste is too much waste for a piece of art? We'll dive into everything from memes to movies, and we'll even look at creators like Mr. Beast, who walk the line between waste and value. And by the end, maybe you'll reflect on how you personally value entertainment. So, if you're into a discussion about that, then you're in the right place. But how did I get here? What led me to wanting to talk about the value of movies? Especially because you could probably already guess I value movies a whole bunch. To help you follow along with my train of thought, I'm going to start you off with where the thought first occurred to me. I was a sick duckling in bed and was attempting to pass the time with some good old brain-rotting memes when I came across this meme. And yes, we're about to watch a meme, but I swear, it's relevant.
Today I'm going to be seeing how many hangers it takes to support my weight. So we're going to start with 5. Here's 6. Moving on to velvet hangers, I ran out of the plastic ones. This is 10, by the way. We have 12 right here. Here's 15. Alright, so I think 15 hangers.
Now, how is this meme relevant to our discussion today? Well, the answer lies within the comments, right here. The absolute wastefulness of this video hurt me on a level I didn't know I had. He broke 48 hangers. Damn. Bro wasted some perfectly good hangers. Hang on there. Did he just waste all those hangers? Would have been more eco-friendly to start with more and take away each time, bro. I need hangers. Not you wasting 48 hangers, bro. Bro just wasted $100. I'm unsure about you guys, but I laughed at this meme. Maybe it was the delirium of my fever, but this fella got a good chuckle out of me. As a viewer, it brought me some joy, and it seems like from the time I was watching it, at this point months ago, it brought a lot of people joy too. It had roughly 750,000 likes, and that's a decent amount of people that enjoyed a guy trying to hang from some hangers. The comments weren't wrong though. He did break quite a few hangers for a 30-second clip, and because of that, some people didn't enjoy it and found it distasteful. How would we quantify the value of this meme over the waste of the hangers? I felt like death and was wishing to escape from my fleshy form. This meme helped me achieve that for just a few seconds. But is that few seconds of relief worth the handful of plastic in a landfill? Personally, I guess I would rather just stay upset. But I watched memes like that for a good hour or two and had a lot of little chuckles. If I go through all the memes that had waste and take them out, maybe I would take back what I've just said, because I'm not sure how many memes would be left at that point, especially depending on how we define waste. Presuming that everyone who liked this meme found it funny or entertaining, is it worth it then? I'm suggesting the idea that maybe there should be a certain number of people to outweigh whatever the waste production is. I mean, it seems logically fair, I think, but there's no way to know in advance how many people something will entertain, and how many people would have to enjoy it to make it worth the plastic in the landfill. I guess that means that idea doesn't work. Where is the line drawn for it being worth the financial investment and or the environmental impact? So yes, all this did stem from a meme, and that leads me into my next example, Mr. Beast. I never really watched Mr. Beast, but again, boiling from the inside out will do funny things to you. Plus, I wanted to see what the hip and cool kids were watching nowadays. So I ended up watching this video, and oh my god, I was astonished with how much stuff was destroyed, and how quickly it was destroyed too. Like, look how much stuff this is. And he does not linger on each destruction at all. It's just bing bang boom.
Literally, that money's gone.
All I could think about while watching this video was about how much this must have cost him and how quickly everything was happening. It kind of reminded me of the vibes I get when I'm forced to watch Blippi when I'm babysitting. I'm not quite sure what comparison I'm picking up there, but anyway, I felt like I could physically feel Mr. Beast's insecurity and fear of losing viewers coming off of my screen while watching this.
Do you think Mr. Beast ruined YouTube? Yes.
Hello, Editor Silly here. I wrote this script before all the Mr. Beast drama, so I don't touch on that here. Sorry.
What is this Mr. Beast video but a bigger, much bigger version of that coat hanger video? It creates a buttload of waste, definitely has an environmental impact, and a lot of money was spent on it. Is it worth it? To me, I had the knee-jerk reaction to say no. For my personal preferences, I did not find this video enjoyable.
I don't like your food.
What did you say?
I said I don't like your food, and I would like to send it back.
I found myself instinctively thinking this was wasteful and kind of annoying to watch. Kind of like the lady in the comments of the meme, which caused me to reflect. Just because I feel this way doesn't mean it isn't worth it. Who am I to say that this wasn't worth the resources? Clearly, there are a whole lot of people that found this video entertaining. One could argue that the money could have been used to make a whole bunch of meals, or help pay someone's rent, or medical bills. Something more tangibly good? I picked Mr. Beast for this reason because he's known to use some of his financial resources from his videos to give back in a more traditionally helpful way. If a piece of content uses its revenue to give back, that seems to easily justify its creation, but should it have to? I'm suggesting the idea that perhaps art should be able to stand on its own. Or is there a certain point where we should start looking at its justification for creation? If the budget's above 50 million, 100 million, $300 million, or if it creates a certain amount of waste. How can we test these principles of waste versus entertainment? Like, here's a quick example. When Oppenheimer was coming out, there was a rumor around my social sphere that they had set off a real nuke and filmed it because Nolan needed it to be authentic. And given the history of Christopher Nolan, I honestly believed it for a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Why Christopher Nolan doesn't use CGI?
I find CGI, however versatile it is, but it always tends to feel a little safe to me. I think if you want something to have a bit of bite, if you want the imagery to have a bit of threat, even if it's a miniature, even if it's something very fake, but something real on camera, I think it gives you a better result.
My friend group and I had a whole discussion on whether or not setting off a nuke was worth it for a film. And there were some of us who thought it wasn't, that the same effect could have been easily achieved with special effects or other movie-making tricks, and the damage to the environment was too great for a film. While others thought test nukes are set off all of the time, and that it would help show the true power of a nuke, which would help get the point across about nukes being bad, making the movie's impact that much stronger. Turns out, it was a false rumor, but hopefully you get my point. My point being that it's hard to determine what can be ethical when it comes to movie making. How do we justify spending all this money, time, and resources for the sake of entertainment? It often feels like a privilege to be able to watch movies and not have to worry about what's going on in the world. Why do we value entertainment so much? Is it more ethical to spend the resources if the entertainment has a message behind it? Or should that not matter? Which leads me to my last topic, movies. The biggest version of that little meme. Blow that meme up from a few seconds and a few plastic hangers in the bin, and you got 2 to 3 hours of entertainment with the budget and waste to match. I felt it was important to get perspective on just how much waste an average Hollywood movie produces. So I reached out to a team that works within the Hollywood industry known as Earth Angels. They've worked for big sets like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Infinity War, and Black Panther, as well as tons of other limited TV series. I got a chance to sit down with their eco project manager, Stevie Gray, and he gave me a deeper look at what's actually going on behind the scenes.
I manage our eco rep program, so that's all of the kind of boots on the ground on set who are in the eco department itself. Once we get onboarded with a client, that's when a lot of different team members start strategizing waste management. Materials and waste is a big one. So, or where are we going to work with local vendors to bring the compost to get processed properly? So a lot of the job on set day to day is managing certain gear that we use to implement these services. So we have recycling, compost, and landfill waste streams that we call zero waste kits. And we set them up in high traffic areas on set, and that's where cast and crew can dispose of their waste.
Okay, so how much waste do you think that is? Like an average ballpark of each film's amount of trash. Trash that be there. How much? Take guess. Wrong, it's 500 tons. Literally 500 tons. Sorry I lied to you, but why would you ever guess 500 tons? No one would ever guess that it's 500 tons, because that's fucking psycho. For all you Americans out there, that's literally 1,000,000 pounds, okay? And for all you special needs, that's roughly 5,000 washing machines, 714 cows, or 1,000 grand pianos. Whatever metric you'd like to use, that's a lot of trash.
So a single Hollywood feature film can generate up to 500 tons of waste, or about 1,000,000 pounds, and then over 3,000 tons of metric tons of carbon. And so that's more on the side of emissions outside of the physical waste itself, or about 30 metric tons of carbon per day. Typically, a limited series can generate 300 tons of waste per episode and then 70 metric tons of carbon per episode.
I understand that a lot of this discussion is predicated on the assumption that there is a problem with the amount of trash in the world and that there are valid environmental concerns. However, even if you don't subscribe to those ideas, I'd still hope you're able to see the hypocritical nature of the movies themselves. After getting pounded with
The message.
Told how you need to
Do better, Senator.
But when you take a second to peek behind their curtains, you see more trash than a single person could produce in their lifetime. Here's some iconic examples. During the filming of Gone with the Wind, the filmmakers lit mounds of sets from previous films, like King Kong, ablaze for the epic burning of Atlanta scene,
producing one of Hollywood's most awesome spectacles,
sending a plume of potentially hazardous smoke into Los Angeles' sky. For Gene Kelly's classic dance scene in the 1952 musical Singin' in the Rain, producers ran countless gallons of water for a week on a back lot at MGM. When they realized they were starting to lose water pressure around 5 p.m. as the residents of the nearby city got home from work, they altered their schedule to run the water sooner.
The water pressure for Los Angeles that day kept rising and falling.
During the filming of Titanic, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, one of Hollywood's most famous climate change activists.
Governments know it. Even the United States military knows it. The chief of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Command, Admiral Samuel Locklear, recently said that climate change is our single greatest security threat.
Force that we have, and that's our planet. And we're systematically polluting it. We're chopping down rainforests, destroying coral reef systems, animals.
Wastewater from the set polluted a nearby ocean to the Mexican village it was being filmed at. The pollution decimated the local sea urchin population and reduced fish levels. Local fishermen told Mexican environmental officials that the volume of the catch in the area where the epic was filmed had declined 50% for some species. 3 years later, during the filming of the drama The Beach, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, the film crews uprooted local flora on an island in Thailand, destroying dunes that served as a natural barrier against monsoons and tsunamis. Additionally, the subsequent boom in tourism related to the film took such a toll on the local coral reefs that the government suspended tourism there.
Until recently, 3,500 people visited the beach every day, so the authorities shut it down.
Percentage of living coral before we close it is only 8%.
What was that? Did you just say coral?
Coral before we close it. Coral.
Destroying coral reef systems. Coral reef systems.
Is only 8%. So you can see that it's been a very serious condition.
The worst offender of these ethical ideas being contradictory with its actual practices that I can think of would probably have to be Avatar. Thematically, Avatar echoes concerns of deforestation, climate change, and exploitation of natural resources. The savior of the film is an environmentalist. This hypocrisy was not entirely lost on James Cameron.
You know, it's such a great opportunity now, starting out on the Avatar sequels, to say, look, this is how a production company can work, making clean green energy as we go, you know. And I didn't want people coming up to me afterwards saying, "Oh yeah, you're the big environmentalist making this movie about how we should all behave, and yet you guys are using all this power for all your computers." You know, I heard that criticism when we made the first film, and we did something about it.
But even with that effort, it didn't offset the waste. The filmmakers produced entire real-life sets and wardrobes just to get a better sense of how bodies and fabrics might move in the digital world of Pandora. Most notably, they flew their actors around to different countries for spiritual mentoring. Spiritual mentoring. It's the same companies preaching to us this message that is one of the worst offenders across all of the industries for waste.
Disney World produces a lot of trash. More than 15,000 pounds per day at Magic Kingdom alone.
And why are you acting so nervous? And why are you sweating so much?
No, wait, it's not what you think. This is a big misunderstanding. You've got to believe me. Listen, I am telling you! You better listen to me, SpongeBob!
So to loop back to the beginning, I wish I could ask the people who thought that meme was a waste of coat hangers if they're okay with the waste that is made for a film. And if it is okay, what's the difference? I think at a distance, movies have a more obviously identifiable meaning behind them, which helps make them make sense as to why they exist. Movies typically have some kind of message or thematic through line, whereas a meme, like this one, was purely entertainment for entertainment's sake. However, does Does a movie need a message or theme to justify its existence? I'd say not. You very quickly run into this problem of what the author intended by their content versus the audience and what they might be seeing or interpreting from that content. Take, for example, the movie Jackass. Outwardly, it is known as a film that is just taking a piss to take a piss. Launching a man in a porta potty covered in shit, or drinking other people's sweat, causing physical harm to another just for the sake of it. So to a lot of people, I think this film might not have a deeper meaning to them. That's to say it's not impossible. You could totally see a deep, meaningful theme about friendship and camaraderie, and how the cast supports and encourages one another, and they create a sense of community and belonging. Whatever you think, maybe you walk away with a deeper appreciation for true friendship. So, for the sake of argument, someone could have watched that coat hanger video and pulled a message from it about testing your limits. Regardless, the problem is, when it comes to content, we can't justify an art's creation based on the message, because the author's intention is not necessarily what the audience will see. Plus, we would get into the mess of how important does a message have to be. Am I allowed to create a painting of a cat where the only intended message is that the cat is cute? Or do I have to have my painting be about the way a cat represents a deep spiritual connection to your mom? I don't know. So we've laid the groundwork for if it had good messaging, no messaging, and how messaging can be subjective. But what if it intentionally had negative messaging?
Now, what if the movie was thematically trying to send out the message like pro-nihilism, or let's go even more extreme, pro-Nazism, pro-racism, pro-some-ism?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Autism.
Pro-autism.
Would you defend a movie's right to be created if it prompted an ism or negative message while also pumping out 3,000 metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere? The movie is one thing, but trying to keep in mind the impact it has on resource consumption is another. When reading through articles on this topic, this article written by the Plastic Pollution Coalition caught my attention specifically with this line right here. It says, "From pre-production to post-production, the film industry is one of the largest producers of unnecessary waste in the world." Unnecessary. How do we qualify something as necessary? I mean, if I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, perhaps necessary is meant interchangeably with survival here, like food, water, shelter. Regardless, I think the article's use of the word unnecessary is telling in what these people value. Maybe movies specifically aren't necessary, but entertainment as a whole seems pretty essential to being human.
We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for.
We are creatures of both mind and body, and entertainment feeds our minds in a way that other things can't. Right now, culturally, movies and TV shows provide a lot of that. I think tech has allowed us to evolve what our version of entertainment looks like. On top of that, trying to measure the impact a story can have on a personal or cultural level is really difficult. Sometimes we can see it though. Let's take, for example, the movie The Day After.
It was a movie like no other movie, and it had a profound impact on New York.
It opened people's eyes to the scary possibility of nuclear war. Ronald Reagan, the president at the time, was so moved by this movie that he was quicker to negotiate peace deals, even noting how it inspired and moved him in his journal. And sticking with Ronald Reagan for a second, did you know the movie Taxi Driver inspired the assassination attempt on him? So, it's safe to say, entertainment leaves a mark, and sometimes it's not even good art that does this. Terrible films can inspire people to think critically and become creators themselves. Listen to the super chat that someone sent into EFAP.
The Last Jedi was the first time I disliked a movie I saw in the theater. It made me go on this long week of self-discovery where I thought about what I appreciate in film, and now I want to become a writer.
I remember seeing Shrek with my dad in theaters when I was quite young, and I know that's not globally significant to literally anyone, but it holds a very deep personal value to me because of that memory I have with my father. How do I put a price on that? How many hangers would I throw in the trash? And I remember the energy when Infinity War and the Endgame movies were coming out.
On your left.
No matter how you feel about those movies, it was such a living, breathing part of culture at the time. Do you think entertainment is necessary to sustain human life? All I'm saying is, maybe it's not as unnecessary as it could seem. Something I personally find very interesting is how when someone learns the amount of waste from a single film, it can impact their opinion on it. I sent out a poll to average movie watchers, ones that aren't dissecting movies and writing or watching content like this very often. At the end of the poll, where I tried to ask questions to gauge their ethical line, I told them how much waste it was, and I asked if it would change their mind. And it does for some people. About 12 of the 33 people changed their mind and said that it would impact their opinions on waste in the film industry. Why do you think that is? That suggests that they were okay with the idea of waste up to a certain threshold, and I'm curious to know where this threshold is and why we have come to place it there. In the poll, I also got to question about their opinions on budget thresholds. For instance, Amazon spent a staggering $715 million on the Lord of the Rings TV show, and, well, we all know how that turned out. Is it a waste of resources considering it was a near universal disappointment from viewers?
It's being called the biggest fucking waste of your hard-earned money to come along in years.
If anything, that show left many fans frustrated and upset.
Is a great example of what garbage is.
$715 million is a lot of money to spend, especially when the end product is widely regarded as a failure.
I should have been like, hey, what about the fact if they give that money to someone else to make even better stuff? Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, like-
we could give it to Riot. We could give it 14.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
a good idea.
Like people going the Acolyte, like, oh, it doesn't matter that the Acolyte was so expensive and shit. And I'm just thinking, like, actually, it would have been really nice if the money they spent on the Acolyte was funneled into Andor Season 2.
Yeah.
Worse, it did a disservice to the beloved content it was based on. I think, if anything, it reminds us of an important truth, that no amount of money can compensate for bad storytelling. Maybe we can place a value on something based on the quality. I mean, that seems kind of fair too. But wait, what about all of the commentary videos and memes that surfaced dissecting how poor the show was? Were those videos and the hours of discourse worth the $715 million?
Put a bit of spit down there.
Oh, Jesus. Leave it there. I'm gonna come.
There's a guy trying to break the chain with his hands. He's pulling it apart with his hands. He's trying to pull the chains apart with his hands.
He's got a great face while he's in it.
Have a really good face.
He definitely looks like he's in a comedy YouTube sketch.
It's an intriguing thought. Perhaps the value of a bad show isn't in its failure, but in the cultural dialogue it sparks.
More hypotheticals. Oh my goodness, this is great. I've been cooking alone in this idea for so long. Okay, what if you had to, these are extremes, yeah? So I know this wouldn't happen in reality, but for the rest of forever, we could only either have good companies that create mediocre content or bad companies that create astonishing pieces of art.
To address that, I would just quickly. I mean, in that case, I would probably say that like the mediocre is a better option because, like, in that case, we're reducing heavy harm, but we are then diminishing the gains a bit.
I have a question for you though, because often a society starts to have severe fatigue from constant mediocre slop.
I agree.
And while that doesn't necessarily lead into shit like like crime and stuff, it leads to a bleak and unhappy society.
There definitely is a moral point to where, like, if you know that someone is doing something terrible and you are just funneling money to them, then obviously that's a bad thing. But
I think I'm just not happy with the modern day zombieism of people being partially aware, partially keeping their eyes closed, because if we all were to fucking pry those bitches open and like look at it straight, it'd be really bad. And I don't think anybody could recover from that.
the problem is, if you only want to give money to people that you 100% agree with morally and politically, you won't be able to spend money on anything anywhere.
Should that factor into how we assess whether a project's budget was worth it? Watch me name this video, The Rings of Power Was Worth It. Here are my final thoughts. What I find really interesting about Stevie Gray is he loves filmmaking. He pursued it in school, got a degree in it, and works on film projects both on his own and on productions. I asked him, as someone who exists within this dichotomy, how he feels towards the situation.
But for me, it was always something that felt accessible, and it was something I always enjoyed. But as I started to work on bigger and bigger sets, I started to see the waste firsthand. And I started to ask, especially when I was in more entry-level roles, like a production assistant, for example, I'd have 14-hour days of very, hot manual labor, and I would see all this waste, and we maybe shot 20 seconds of an establishing shot for 8 hours. And it's like, what are we doing here? There's like 200 people at least. We've been running generators for the entire day. Post-COVID, the amount of single-use plastic just for PPE, and then like the testing, and then all of the individually packaged meals was absurd. And it was already bad before COVID, but most of my experiences on bigger sets were kind of during that era. So I was just spending most of my day on set throwing away single-use plastic. And so I reached a point where I said, if I'm going to work in this industry, it's got to be to fix whatever this is.
A large part of why this conversation matters too is because people spend a lot of time consuming this form of entertainment. Time is a form of currency, and how we choose to spend it reflects what we value. For perspective, a study done by LG Electronics found that the average adult watches 3,639 movies and 31,507 episodes of TV in their lifetime. That's roughly 78,000 hours spent just on TV and movies, without even accounting for other forms of entertainment like YouTube videos or endless hours of meme scrolling. When we consider both the time and money invested in this form of entertainment, it makes the stakes feel even higher. After all, if we're collectively spending so much of our lives watching, shouldn't the quality of the content and its production be worth that investment? And this brings us to the next issue, the balance between creativity, budget, and the ethical responsibility of minimizing waste. Personally, I think having a limit on a budget and waste would not only be ethically the right thing to do, but it may even inadvertently help with the shit stream of content that we've been having.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Having unlimited resources, ironically, can create an environment where creativity, innovation, and problem solving is no longer encouraged. Tighter ends means you gotta think outside the box.
A lot of the time, and the way that Earth Angel works with productions, they end up saving money bringing on a team to manage sustainability because they're inherently consuming less. And so you have to be a little bit more intentional about what you're buying for the production itself.
It also matters because every time we sit down to watch a movie, we're engaging with the culturally accepted norm that it's okay for a movie to create 500 tons of waste and to cost $300 million. Curious if you think there's any responsibilities on the viewers for this environmental impact, and if so, kind of how can we do anything from this end as a viewer?
That's a fantastic question. And it's one of those things that it's always hard to put the onus on the individual sometimes, especially in the context of the climate crisis. We see it a lot of BP telling us to worry about our individual carbon footprint. And we're like, didn't you just aren't you BP? Why are you telling me to, But I still think it's worth considering your individual impact. And I think most of the time it goes to the point of vote with your dollars of as consumers, and especially when it comes to the climate crisis. Yes, there are these massive corporate entities that are, have bigger footprints than all of us combined. And at the same time, we play a part in that process by consuming what they're making.
The large amounts of money spent on movies in conjunction with the amount of time spent watching movies is a reflection of how much value the individual and culture places on this form of entertainment. Taking a second to consider why we might be placing so much value on this form of entertainment can be an interesting and fun introspective look at ourselves. After all my thinking, I've come to the conclusion that entertainment does not need to have any deeper meaning, message, or moral behind it to justify its existence. The art is allowed to stand on its own. That doesn't mean there shouldn't be a natural, cultural, and self-governing for the scale of waste and accountability for one's own creation of waste. The creation of waste can be justified by the impact of art, which is often immeasurable and long-lasting. Movies specifically offer a safe place to experience powerful emotions. This emotional engagement can be a really valuable aspect of the human experience. It can help individuals connect with characters and situations outside of their own lives. Watching movies can be a social activity, bring people together to share experiences, and have fun dissecting the movie afterwards. I mean, hell, I see so many comments under film discussion videos that talk about how it was more enjoyable to watch the commentary than the actual movie. Not to forget, on its own, the value of the act of making a movie. It provides artistic individuals the opportunity to express themselves through writing, cinematography, music, and acting. So now that everything's been laid out, do you think this video was a waste of time? Were there 1,000 better things you could have been doing instead? Are you listening in passing? Maybe this video justified its existence by having some information, or perhaps it was something that provided entertainment which allowed you to relax, and that's enough for you. Regardless of whether you think this video was a waste of time, I want to say thanks for watching.
If you build a set this big and you don't blow it up, you're doing something wrong.
We'll dive into everything from memes,
I think I'm also really interested in talking about this as much as I am because it's what I'm deciding to do with my life in a way. You know, I'm dedicating my life to writing, reading, telling stories, teaching other people how to do that well. I feel these questions are important to me. They're important to everybody because they're part of our culture, but they're very important to me in that way because I want to make sure what I'm doing is worth its weight in effort, but worth its weight in, well, I only get one life, and I want to make sure I do it right. So I think that's why I care about a silly little meme that blew up into this whole video idea as much as I do.
It's like, oh, I wish there was just more.
I just had new thought. Wait, new thought is being birthed. Oh
Okay.
shit.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh no, I might be gone. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
try to
ready for
pull it
this.
out.
I
Okay.
haven't witnessed a birth.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
So
let's think.
so like slop good, allowed to bad art, allowed to be. Hold up. Oh no. Give me a second.
You
Okay.
got it. You got it.
If hold on. If we pull. Okay, no. If we if oh no, it's going away. Shh, I need to focus. No one talk. Okay, we got this. Okay, if we sit down and we watch bad film, and then we go, okay, bad film 1, and then we keep doing that, we haven't stood up and be like, ayo, this is enough slop. You know what I'm trying to say? No.
Do you, okay, if you...
Yeah. Yes.
What
Yes.
is... All right.
No.
Okay. Okay. Seriously. If you took, all right, no, wait, hold on. If you knew for sure that you would never, ever, ever be found out, would you?
Probably would, yeah.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.